Hi Year Nines and welcome back to Geography. I hope you're all doing okay with remote learning. Massive well done to those of you that are managing to send work in on a regular basis. If you're not, do make sure that you're communicating with us teachers because that's really important and we might be able to help you. Okay, so moving on with glaciation, we're now on to lesson 3 of the topic. Your title for today is How Do Glaciers Change Landscapes? So we're going to have a look at how they carve their way along mountainsides and down through valleys and what processes occur in the meantime. So that's your title for today. Please make sure you write that down with a date. And then what I would like you to do as your starter task is to complete the Google form quiz in the assignment folder. So if you haven't done that already, I'd like you to pause this video and then go back and complete the Google form quiz. It's 10 questions of multiple choice, so it should only take you a few minutes. Make sure that you record your score afterwards and then write it in the comment section when you upload your work. Okay, so you can just put your score out of 10. All right, Year Nines. So you can now pause and do that. So our learning objectives for today are to understand how glaciers erode, transport and deposit material. These processes help change the landscape and we need to understand them. So that's going to be the first part of the lesson. The second part of the lesson is analysing a topographical map. Okay, and you can see an example of one here. So we can see those lovely contour lines and we get a real idea of the shape of the land by looking at these maps. So what we want to investigate first of all, Year Nines, is how glaciers erode landscapes. Now we know that erosion is the movement of material. So your first task is to watch a short video on YouTube describing some of these erosional processes. I would like you to watch this. It takes a few minutes. What you're going to need to do is write that link into either your laptop or phone, okay, and watch that. Then I'd like you to come back to this PowerPoint. So you can now pause the PowerPoint and you can go and watch the video, and then I'd like you to come back to this slide. Okay, Year Nines, hopefully you've paused and you've watched the video and now you've got some idea about how material is moved with a glacier. You can see in this picture that you've got some different processes explained already in this diagram. So number 1, okay, you can see that lovely diagram of the plucking occurring along the bedrock, and that's literally when the ice picks up the rock and the sediment and it carries it along in the ice. Number 2, you can see that process of abrasion, where rock is worn down through the movement of rocks scraping and hitting alongside each other. You've got number 3, and here we can see a rocky landscape next to a glacier. And this is where freeze-thaw weathering occurs. Okay, and this can occur in any glacial landscape, because we need those sub-zero temperatures for that to occur. We also need moisture. Okay, so number 3, freeze-thaw weathering can occur anywhere. Now, number 4, we can see at our snout of our glacier, and this is where deposition occurs. Now, in this picture, we can see some meltwater. So we can assume that the temperature at the bottom of this glacier is warmer than at the top. And as the ice melts, what's going to happen is it's going to drop all of that material and it's going to deposit it at the snout of this glacier. So let's just recap some of those key processes. So number 1, plucking. Plucking takes place where loosened blocks of bedrock become frozen to the base of the glacial ice. Often the rock has already been loosened by freeze-thaw weathering, and we'll go into that process a bit later on. As the ice moves forward, the rock frozen to the ice moves with it. It is plucked from the bedrock. This plucked rock debris becomes embedded at the base and the sides of the glacier. Number 2, as the ice moves forward, these rocks scrape against the bedrock, wearing it away. This is called abrasion. It leaves behind smooth, polished rock surfaces, which may have scratches in them called striations. If you're a bit confused about these 2 processes, Year Nines, do go back to the previous slide, have a look at those diagrams, maybe rewatch the video to help explain them. Okay, so some more glacial processes. Weathering, erosion, transportation and deposition occur in different ways with glaciers than in rivers and the sea, like you might have learnt previously. Freeze-thaw weathering takes place more often in cold temperatures, as shown in diagram A. It can occur under and at the sides of the valley glacier. Rock fragments of the mountainside continually break off and fall into the glacial ice. So let's just talk through these diagrams quickly. So we can see we have a rock, and this rock needs to have cracks in it in order for this weathering to occur. What will happen is water will slowly seep its way into these cracks, okay, and that will happen in warmer weather when the water is in a liquid state. And as the temperatures drop and this water becomes frozen, it's going to expand. So just like if you've ever put a bottle of frozen water in the freezer, you know that that bottle will get bigger and bigger. It's the same in rocks. Okay, so as that ice expands the rock, those cracks are going to get bigger and bigger. They're going to get deeper and they're going to get wider. Over time, as this is repeated, this whole process, eventually the rock will weaken and it will slowly start to break away. Okay, so next activity, Year 9s. So what I would like you to do is I'd like you to answer these 3 questions. So your first question is, what is freeze-thaw weathering? Second question is, why does this form of weathering occur in glacial areas? And then last question, how does freeze-thaw weathering make it easier for glaciers to erode landscapes? Now, of course, you can go back to the previous slides to help you answer these, and again, watch the video if that's going to help. Right, so you can now pause this, and I would give yourself about 5–10 minutes to answer these. Okay, so you can pause now, Year 9s. Good luck. Hi, Year 9s, welcome back. So we're on to our next task now, and we're going to start to analyse this picture in a bit more detail. So I want you to look really carefully at photo B. You're then going to answer these series of questions. So the first question is, which type of glacial erosion is shown at 1 and 2? You've got to justify your answer for this, so give a reason why. Question B, what process happens at 3? Again, justify your answer. How do you know this and why does it occur there? C, what is happening at 4? Again, if you need help with these questions, skip back. If you remember, I did explain this at the beginning, so go back and watch it if you need to. Then as a challenge, what I would like you to do is I would like you to draw your own annotated diagram to explain how a glacier erodes a landscape. Now, you might like to use picture B to help you with this. You might like to do your own research on the internet and get some other figures up that you could maybe look at for inspiration. Give yourself 15 minutes to do all these tasks, okay, no more than 15 minutes, and then come back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so you can now pause where you are. Okay, Year 9, so well done for doing that last task. What we're going to do now is we're going to explore how glaciers transport and deposit material. Now, if we think of the word transport, we know that it's talking about moving something from one place to another, and we know that deposit means leaving something somewhere. As the glacier moves downslope, it is transporting vast amounts of rock that have mixed with the ice. This debris is called moraine. Moraine varies in size from huge angular boulders to fine clay. Downslope temperatures eventually become warmer and the ice will begin to melt at the glacial snout. As the ice melts, the material it was transporting is deposited. The water from the melting ice runs downslope, feeding into a river or a lake, and this is called, or is known as, melt water. Okay, now what's really exciting about moraine is that some of these debris is that these glaciers are sometimes so powerful that they can carry huge boulders across vast distances. So what geologists sometimes find is that you'll have a seemingly empty valley and there'll just be massive boulders left in the middle of them. And this used to really puzzle people as to how they got there. And it was only through the study of these glaciers that they discovered that the ice was actually transporting these huge pieces of sediment just by moving over time. So really interesting. and this type of movement does help to carve out these huge valleys that we often see. Okay, so time for our next activity, Year 9s. So what I would like you to do now is I would like you to describe how glaciers transport material. So again, go back to that previous slide if you need to. Your second activity is to answer these 3 questions. So I would like you to explain why a glacier deposits material. So what's happening at the snout of that glacier that causes it to drop and deposit that material? B, where does a glacier deposit material it has been carrying? So where does it happen? And I might have just given you a clue for that. Okay, C, last one, what happens to the ice when it melts? So where does it go? Don't give yourself any more than 5 minutes on these questions, please. Okay, so you can now pause and complete this. All right, Year 9, so on to the next set of activities. And these are the last questions that you're going to need to do or complete for this lesson. So the next slide, which I'm going to show you in a moment, shows us a topographical map of the Fox Glacier. Now, I would like you to work your way through these activities looking at this particular glacier. So question 1, or A, I should say, I would like you to locate the Fox Glacier using either an atlas, the internet, or Google Earth. And what I would like you to find out is its latitude and longitude. If you are going on Google Earth, it's a really good opportunity for you to explore the glacier and its surroundings, and it's a really good tool to use, so make sure you're using that if you can access it. B, I would like you to describe the shape of the glacier using map C. So describe its shape. You might want to talk about distances, give it a scale if you can. So try and give some idea of size and shape. C, describe the distribution of moraine in the area. And the symbol for moraine is at the bottom on the key, and you'll have to look really closely on this. Okay. Now we know distribution is where something is found as well. D, I would like you to draw a sketch map of the Fox Glacier and label the following on it: the glacier, glacial snout, areas of moraine, meltwater, areas where the glacier is eroding, and depositing rock debris is found. Okay, so just a quick sketch. It doesn't have to be an artist's rendition. Think back to all our field sketch lessons. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just try and annotate it with that information if you can. And then the last one, E. What evidence can you find to suggest that the glacier was once further west and has retreated to its current position? Okay. So remember what retreat means when we're talking about glaciers. So kind of going backwards. Retreating means getting smaller and going backwards. Okay, so there are your questions, Year 9. We're now going to skip to the next slide and I'm going to talk you through the map quickly. All right, so this is our topographic map of the Fox Glacier. So here you can see our grid squares, like in most maps that we look at, but you can also see our contour lines, and details such as rivers, any other features that need to be on there. You can see some of the main ridges are named, and you can see the name of the glacier. So down at the bottom of the slide, bottom left, you can see our key. You can see our perennial snow and ice contours. They're represented by those blue lines. So that's the height of the glacier. And then we've also got our alpine features. So things like moraine, which is of course our sediment that's left behind by a glacier. You've got moraine walls, which is when deposition occurs all at once. And then you've got our scree, which is material that's deposited or eroded along a mountainside. So using this figure, you are going to answer those questions on the previous slide. Now, if you find a question really difficult, don't forget to go back through the PowerPoint, see if there's any information that's going to help you answer it. But also don't forget that you can email me or Mr. Johns if you have any issues at all. But do your best with this lesson. It should be about 50 minutes long. This last task will take you about 15-20 minutes. Okay. But good luck and let me know if you need any help with it, Year 9s. All right. Goodbye.